Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tashi, and I work for the Ethnic South Asia office as a regional communications and program officer. I'm also the manager for the human rights portfolio in the office. Welcome to this webinar on entrepreneurship in Bhutan as we explore the intricacies surrounding entrepreneurship in Bhutan. To open up this floor, I would like to invite Dr. Draeger, who is a German citizen, a keynote speaker for this panel. Dr. Draeger, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tashi. I hope I can be audible fine. Thank you so much for the invitation to hold a keynote speech on this entrepreneurship and innovation for economic growth. And so good afternoon from Germany, just past 12. And actually just recently back from Bhutan, where I was staying there since the beginning of 2020. And I worked as a national consultant together with Renew and the Gyalem Charitable Trust. And please allow me a few thoughts about the topic today. Probably the participants, the panelists, they are in a major mood, talking in music style with positive ideas and so on. So therefore, please allow me to rather play the notes in minor key. Also, at the end, I'll be pleased to be otherwise at the end of discussion. Let's start with the next slide, because this slide and the next one, they will show the whole dilemma of Bhutan in very simple figures, and it shows the hard struggle of Bhutan to struggling for convertible currency, either earning convertible currency or avoiding spending convertible currency. And we're talking about Australian dollars, US dollars, euros, even Indian rupee, as the Nulltrum. It's only a local currency which is not be traded outside of Bhutan. So when you look at the figures, the rough composition of the GDP, the primary sector supplies about 20% of the GDP. The secondary sector comes up to 34%, and the tertiary sector is 46%. Not very spectacular, but when you look at the next slide, have a look at the next slide, please. We have the rough distribution of the employees, and the primary sector comes up to more than 50% of the people working there. The secondary sector, this is where the sector is, where the real money is earned. There's only about 10% of the people, and the tertiary sector, which is rather a lot of civil service, of police, military, and so on. That's 35%, where not really money is earned for the country. And even when you look at the trade, most of the goods that are being bought outside of Bhutan and sold inside. So this is really the dilemma that we need to change about that. Have a look at that. And I hope that some of these things will be discussed in the panelists. So next slide, please. So here's some general challenges that I came across in the last, nearly 4 years. And very simple, it's the economies of scale, both in production and marketing. You have to know the country. It's landlocked, long distances, and small quantities to be produced. Then, as I said, it's an excessive regulation. And what I find, a lot of lack of Bhutanization. Sometimes I have the feeling that people have to look around about the rules in other countries and they take it one-to-one. Then another thing is the low decision-making capacity or unclear decision-making structures. I'll come back to with a small example in a minute. And when you look at the Council in the last years, there's no planning securities or substitutes and attitudes that hinder change. A wonderful example is agriculture. If there's a chili crisis, they pamper this area, and sometimes it's stopped then. And the general challenge, as I mentioned before, create convertible currency or save the expenses. So I have a small, next slide, please, a small example, that is the solar power. We set up a solar power in Thimphu, and I think Bhutan is a fantastic country for solar power, but the procedure of it, no standards at all. That's crazy. If you need to do this as a private person, no one will go on. Then a wonderful example is the confusion of competencies. The Bhutan Electricity Authority, or BPC, and other commissions that have a regulation on how you can produce the money. And the next step is no feed-in tariff, no compensation. So the electricity you produce more during the daytime, you have to feed it as a thank you for the BPC, and in the nighttime you have to pay. And again, the Bhutanization of technology and standard producers, they are not very much matching to the existing infrastructure. Okay, so then therefore the last one, I think, last slide. So a few possible directions, and I do hope they will be covered in the discussion. I think what we really need is a long-term promoting planning and coordination, especially in agriculture besides tourism. This is really, after the 4 years, I hardly have any other ideas what to do to really create income for the Bhutan. Then clear up the confusion of competencies. This is really one thing. A lot of commissions, and I think this is something which is really also an issue for the private industry. Then the promotion of sustainable development. Really go ahead with the plans. And then the incentives, have them targeted. No watering can principle. And I think the last point, Bhutanization of possible solutions. As I was really kind of writing down for myself, currently there's a pig driven through the village every day. So please think of your own ideas, try to promote your own ideas, and I do hope that after some time the politics really will support these ideas. So therefore, I'm really looking forward now for the panel discussion. Thank you so very much for this time, and back to you, Tashi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Traeger. That was very insightful. That was very insightful, and thank you so much. I think it takes a certain level of courage to point these issues out, and I hope we take this into consideration as well. I now take this opportunity to invite Mr. Rikesh Guru, who is the president of Bhutan Association of Entrepreneurs. Mr. Rikesh, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Tashi. I'm sorry I don't have a presentation. I don't have a slide, but being an entrepreneur, I like just to talk about the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Probably take you down the memory lane of how I actually started my business about 9 years ago. So when I started my business, the Green Road, it took me 2.5 years to get the license, and I think we have come a long way. These days you can actually able a license in about 10 minutes time. So we have come a long way. It's really thriving. But just to set the context for this topic today, our country's economy has been driven by these two large sectors, the hydropower and the tourism. 60% of the population is dependent on agriculture, and high percentage of GDP is dependent on climate change in this very fragile ecosystem. So as such, it's very imperative for the policy and plans to really focus on creating diverse economy that actually renders resilience to any external setbacks. So I always believe that we really need to have this economic diversification of the small nation. And then the CSR flagship actually created this leap forward, and then wanted to do big things. And reckoning with the importance of CSI that I'm part of, and this startup ecosystem in this very economic diversification, I think the government has been initiating a lot of programs. The flagship was launched but there is still a lot to be done. And for the viewers out of Bhutan, as of June 2018, we had about 20,000 CSIs registered in the country. But that fraction of the CSI was actually employing over 1 lakh 1,000 people. And out of that 20,000 CSIs, 79% of the CSIs were dominated by the service sector, and then followed by the production and the manufacturing sectors. I think it's of paramount importance of really helping the CSI sector catalyze the economic progress. It's very much needed, and all we have to do is create this very conducive environment, regulations, and infrastructures. So there is a need to bridge the trust deficit between the lending agencies and then the entrepreneurs. And BAYUL wanted to be this nodal agency to create this very robust and healthy relationship with the government, and then officially started in 2019. We have been able to do a lot of things to the entrepreneurs. And for instance, the entrepreneurs of the BAYUL Association had different innovations, ideas. We were abreast of the latest trends, happenings, and needs in the innovation and technology business. So the knowledge and experience of the pool, could have tapped this, for policy recommendation or implementation of diversification. So that was the main reason why the Association of Bhutanese Entrepreneurs was actually formed. And I've been asking this question myself. What makes a really good entrepreneur ecosystem? I think it's very easy also to answer this. For any entrepreneur ecosystem, I think the essence it is with its people and the culture of trust and collaboration that allows to interact the flow of talent, information, and resources that will help entrepreneurs quickly to find out what they need at each of the growth stages. And again, what would be the common key constituents of a good entrepreneur ecosystem? And I think the most important component, would be the people, the technology, the capital, and infrastructure. The people component includes the human capital of any entrepreneur ecosystem, be it mentorship, supportive services, leadership, or say incubators and essential incubators startup to grow also. So, and coming back to the cultural aspect of entrepreneurship, the Bhutanese conception of entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial ecosystem and education, I think would really align with the Bhutan's mainstream culture values, which are really deeply, rooted in Buddhist principles. And these values are actually mirrored in the national, development policies of GNH, which talked about. I think once a clear understanding of, the characteristics of entrepreneurship that are aligned with the GNH is established, I think it becomes very feasible to develop, entrepreneurship education that is also aligned with the GNH principles also. And now talking about, innovation and creativity, I think innovation has been, the driving force that allows entrepreneurs to think outside the box and beyond the traditional solutions. Through this opportunity, I think new and interesting and potential yet versatile ideas do really come up. And overall, I think creativity also, along with innovations are, I think very integral part of entrepreneurial success. They, empower entrepreneurs to discover opportunities, growth, solve problems, differentiate themselves, and adapt to change, continuously improving and driving business growth. So it's very important for entrepreneurs to be very creative, very innovative. And recently we had Richard Branson here, and then household names like Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, they have actually set the target very high, the bar very high when it comes to creative thinking and allowing them to build this very big multi-billion-dollar empires. Now, while they may have had one thing in common, which was having a knack for creative thinking, I think the one thing that really leading entrepreneurs and innovators like Richard Branson and Elon Musk all have one thing in common, I think, is that they were all domain experts before launching their business. And while people also maintain that you are born with creativity and entrepreneurial brain, I think others also maintain that it can also be taught. You may have a great idea, but you will need some sort of an entrepreneurial training or a business acumen to turn your ideas into successful and sustainable enterprises. So it is very important. One thing that I like to end my speech is that when it comes to creativity, entrepreneurship, and innovation, I think currently at this juncture, I think we should really challenge our youth. Let them come up with new ideas. We should guide them, educate them. Have confidence in them. Let them feel that they are part of this job. They're worth the job. And whatever we do for the future and our youth, I think it's for them. So let us, make them part of it starting now. And I think it's really time to, reimagine, the shape of growth instead of, rising growth that is always depicted by, GDP. What we now need is a, balance and distributed growth. So that's it. Thank you so much for having me. I think I'm over time now. Thank you. Thank you, Tish.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rakesh. That was such an inspiring thing to hear from you. I know that you have been a very great role model for a lot of people and heard really good things about you. Now moving on, let's hear some stories, not just success stories, but challenges, obstacles that still remain relevant in Bhutan, and not just for people living in Bhutan, but those people who still wish good for Bhutan and people who still live outside Bhutan as well. May I now invite Mr. Sangesh Gopal to take over this panel and take over this panel for us. Thank you so much, Mr. Sangesh. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tashi. And let's start with our panel discussion. And just to touch upon Dr. Draeger and what Mr. Gurung had mentioned, I think it's a very opportune time to talk about the economic diversification, as well as creating a conducive environment for the way forward in terms of business and the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. And I believe Mr. Rakesh Gurung had mentioned about technology, and rightly so. In this particular panel discussion is at a very opportune moment, because we are talking about entrepreneurship and innovation for economic growth, with the theme of harnessing creativity and entrepreneurship in Bhutan. And I believe technology is what really opens up the door. And Dr. Draeger had also given some statistics in terms of what our Bhutanese economy has been, specifically in terms of tourism, hydropower, and agriculture. But post-COVID, most of these businesses have been stunted or affected in a large sense. And to come up with innovative and creative ways to move forward in terms of economy and in terms of entrepreneurship, I think this is a very rightly time to have this particular discussion. And on that note, let me just introduce my panelists, a very esteemed list of panelists, in no particular order. But first of all, let me introduce Ms. Nimazam. She's the founder and CEO of Bhutan's first OTT platform, known as SAMU. She is the winner of Rise Awards UK 22, Female CEO Leading Media and Technology Business, as well as the winner of Makers and Shakers Award UK 22 for the best initiative to grow local industry. And she's also the winner of Nultrum Entrepreneur of the Year 2022 Bhutan. Next up, we have Mr. Ujwal Deep Dahal. He is the CEO of Druk Holding and Investments. His interest centers around the area of change management, SDI economy, strategy and planning, energy system, and next generation technology. And lastly, we have Ms. Tsiring Denkar. She's popularly known as Dinker's Getaway, fondly known here in Bhutan. She's very popular in the social media realm. She's a travel blogger and a vlogger. She is an aspiring traveler worldwide, as a trailblazer, as a local Bhutanese travel expert. And recently, just recently, she had completed a series with a Hollywood actor star, Will Smith, for a Nat Geo and Disney Plus. So panelists, welcome to the panel discussion. And to start it off, because Dr. Draeger and Mr. Rakesh Guru had mentioned about the ecosystem of entrepreneurship, I believe we could start with Mr. Dahal. Because recently we just had a conversation on the ecosystem of entrepreneurship, and I think this would be a very interesting way to start off this particular panel discussion. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sanjay. Good evening, everyone, and good evening to all the online listeners joining us today. I think maybe I just want to take a step back to talk about challenges the country kind of faces, but at the same time, how do we look at those challenges as opportunities? I think COVID has taught us, not taught, but actually made us realize more about how to convert challenges to opportunities, to have that mindset. And entrepreneurship to be, the way we look at or the way we discuss in our small ecosystem is a sense of a mindset to find that opportunity and solve that right problem. And if you really solve the problem that matter to a large number of people, we are creating value in society, and business is a byproduct at the end of the day. So if you really look from that angle, so towards building an innovation ecosystem, I mean, Bhutan, if you really look at it, some of our challenges is definitely topographical challenges. We have connectivity challenges. We do have a demographic challenges. And if you look at those three challenges, but then how do we look at probably finding an opportunity to use those challenges to make it as opportunity? So maybe heavy manufacturing is not something that we can get into, but the exponential growth of technology has provided us the opportunity to solve problems and find opportunities for societies within Bhutan and beyond. Now, what I mean by that is finding the opportunity to solve things with that, which transcend some of the challenges that I mentioned. Now, within that thought process, one of the theories that we use at DHI in building an innovation ecosystem is, Robert Solow's growth model, and we kind of try to see what Robert Solow really meant by using the word sustained faster technological progress is so important to build an economy. And that hits exactly where we are with technological progress. Now, just to provide context to what Sanjay asked about how DHI is now trying to set up or at least germinate innovation ecosystem is, this will be my last point, Sanjay, is from 3 points, from 3 angles. For any ecosystem to brew and then to grow and then to thrive, I think it's very important that we look at it from all 360 degrees to make it thrive eventually. Whether we look at the model of Israel or Singapore or Silicon Valley or many countries, we have our own innovation ecosystem that is developed. So how are we looking at it from Bhutan? A small way from DHI side to bring in a participatory approach to building an innovation ecosystem is today we are working on very small proof of concept projects, trying to solve certain problems. Quick example, testing drones, designing, fabricating drones, for example. Launching of the National Digital Identity Project has been output of these small research, the way it started. And now we have an act and a product that is launched nationally, which is the National Digital Identity. First country in the world actually to build decentralized self-sovereign identity framework, digital identity. So that's the research part. We are working on another 20 projects, collaborating with universities, especially tertiary, but also with schools and also with some entrepreneurs, and we want to grow that collaboration. That's one part of the puzzle. The other part, as you're aware, we also have the Jimmy Namgyal Wanchoo Superfab Lab, the third Superfab Lab in the world, constructed, built in Bhutan in collaboration with MIT and Fab Foundation. And the collaboration you can see with the first point and the second point of how the research can actually use the lab. And the lab is open for every individual in Bhutan, every passionate individual in the region and the globe. We just hosted the Fab 23, where we had about 350 entrepreneurs from around the world and fabbers around the world who took part in fabrication for about 2 weeks in Bhutan. Now, the third part that we are working on and where we need support, thoughts, from everybody who's listening in and beyond, is let's create a fund around supporting the research and using the lab so we can fund early startups, and we can also fund different series once we show the proof of concept in this ecosystem. So I'll stop there, but that's what we are trying, but we need the support of every individual to create this and take it forward and make it a real innovation ecosystem to create an economy in Bhutan. Sanjay, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Dal. You mentioned about collaboration and startup, which leads me to our next panelist. Is a perfect segue to that. Collaboration, startup, technology. So let me get to Nimazam, who is the CEO and the founder of Samu, and it's been a very successful startup business you have. So Nimazam, if you could talk to us a little bit about Samu.
Yes, hi everyone. And when we started Samu, we had a clear thing in mind that we really want to develop the creative economy in Bhutan, because that was we saw huge potential there, untapped potential there, and in the keynote speech, Mr. Dr. Drago had mentioned that we do not have enough convertible currency being created in the country through the businesses that we do. And Samu, actually, as a small startup in Bhutan, catering to a very small segment of population, 99.9% of the Bhutanese, in 2 years, we've been able to have a user base of around 120,000 users spread across 184 countries. So that just shows us the possibility of combining technology and combining art and the cinemas together. And I'm very happy to share here that, just in terms of like the user base, 85% of our user base is still from Bhutan. The remaining are from 184 countries. And some of these countries, we got to know only after we started Samu, because that's when we knew, Bhutanese are even located in those countries. And the revenues, like just the dollar revenues from in the last 2 years, we have like at least over $100,000 revenues coming in annually from just a small 15% of Bhutanese users in those countries. So that just shows us the potential that if we use technology and expand into bigger areas, bigger markets, especially with creative arts now, it is possible for us to really create a big creative export industry from Bhutan itself. So, and also, what we have seen from Samu is that a lot of young people in Bhutan, the governments have tried it in the past. A lot of projects have been there in the past, skilling projects in the past, where we've tried to find jobs for them in the construction industry, in the agriculture sector. But Bhutanese, like most Bhutanese youth, they have a natural ability, an aptitude towards creative industry. If you look at the sheer amount of video content that's available on YouTube, you know, that they are, I think, creatively very driven, very talented. So we do feel that with the right amount of investments coming into the creative sector, we can actually create, Samu can actually, has the potential to become the first unicorn from Bhutan. Thank you. So I would like to talk more as we go forward, but this is what I would like to say right now.
Thank you very much, Nimazam. It's great that you touched upon the creative industry and how the Bhutanese youth they have the aptitude for creating content. And this is a good way to segue to our third panelist, Celine Denker's Getaway. She is one of those youth, perhaps, who have taken advantage of social media platforms to really create something for herself, being one of the first female travel blogger and vlogger. So can we hear from Singh Denker on that?
Thank you, Sanjay. Before that, I really liked when Onima said Samu can be the unicorn from Bhutan. That was quite a punchline. All right. Getting back to myself, by passion, I'm a traveler, but people do not really realize why I actually started or why I ventured into this world of travels and in travel industry. Well, I actually when I did my master's in tourism management, and that was when I actually recognized the gap in Bhutanese travel industry, especially in tourism industry of Bhutan. And I found when I was doing research, I found lack of information, lack of digital contents from Bhutan, lack of promotion and marketing done for Bhutanese people, for domestic traveler. And these were three main reasons, besides my passion of traveling, that actually got me to really take keen interest in curating travel contents from Bhutan. And after I returned home, I could have joined, I could have, found any job, or I could have, like any typical parents and sisters, joined civil servant, but I chose to sort of write my own story and also create stories and share stories from places I would be traveling to. So in 2018, I started to travel across the country, and that's when I saw lots of potential or lots of contents around me, and that's when I started to blog. So initially I was a blogger, so I would write about places, I would write about people that I would have met, and then I used social media like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube to actually amplify my work and basically show the contents that I would curate. And then within a year, I realized writing was not enough. Then people around the world, vlogging was trending, and in Bhutan no one was really vlogging. It was very new, and that's when I sort of started to vlog. That's where the video contents came in eventually, and ever since I've become unstoppable. I've been writing for last 5 years now. I'm curating more videos, and of course during that time, during first 2-3 years, it was financially challenging for me. I did not really have any mentors to seek help from as to how I could financially develop my plan or how I could make money out of my passion. But 5 years down the line, it has been so easier for me. And I thank to social media platforms actually for accelerating my work, and at the same time giving me the opportunity to earn as well, although I may not be directly earning from like social media platform except YouTube, but at least people know my work, people know what I do, people know my specialization. And in that sense, I have recognized, or I find lots of opportunities financially as well on pursuing passion. So like when Achut Dahal said, there's, first the value comes in. When you add value, that's when the business starts to kick in afterwards. I think I'm living that moment where I started with passion, and now eventually with the creativity, technology, and digital platform, I think I've been able to accelerate my work to next level.
Very well said, Sir Denker. Definitely, creativity, innovation, technology has, Bhutan, obviously, when we talk about economy and entrepreneurship, we're a landlocked country. So there's a bit of a restriction in that. And I hope we could talk about policies and things like that. And Mr. Dahal might touch upon that. But with technology, with social media, it has sort of transcended that and broken those boundaries. How do we leverage technology to basically innovate, to go further, to move forward? Anybody could take up this particular question. Any of the panelists.
Can I go?
Go. Yes, Nima.
Yeah, so especially in Bhutan, with almost everyone, every Bhutanese being on the social media, especially on Facebook, it's very easy for startups actually with a good communication and a good social media plan to market yourself, your products, or your services. And in less than 2 years, we were able to grow organically on Facebook. Today, we use Facebook as the main tool to promote our content and to promote our content and to drive subscription. So we used social media like Facebook in the beginning, and then we had Instagram on board. Now there are a lot of people on TikTok as well in Bhutan. So we are on TikTok as well, and we have been able to use all the social media platforms, YouTube, everything, to create to promote ourselves at the lowest cost possible with high returns. So it is possible in Bhutan, with a very small population and a huge social media penetration, that we can use social media as a very, very effective marketing and promotion tool.
So take,
Yes,
yes, go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Samita.
I totally agree with what Aunima just mentioned. I think we have solid advantage over a small population because everyone pretty much knows each other. Community being small, we get to spread the words really faster. And the plus point on being social media is it's not only Bhutanese people who get to know you. It's a transboundary thing, right? People around the world actually get to know you, and it's not, you eventually become a global citizen, you eventually become a global content creator. And when you introduced to me saying like I got to work with Will Smith, I thank social media, I thank my website. It was not any it was not Tourism Council of Bhutan, it was not any ministries or any offices that actually recommended me as a traveler to work with them. I got to collaborate with NetGeo and Discovery Plus because through my content which was present on social media account. So when social media platform, when I asked them, how did you get to know me, did someone recommend me, they said, oh, we found your website, and then that's when we wanted to know more about you, and that's how they casted me on board. So that was when I realized, oh, so it's really transboundary. Just because we are Bhutanese doesn't mean our content remains within the kingdom. It actually goes global, just like how Samu is present at 190 plus countries. I think if we can really capitalize on what we present on social media through interesting contents, there's every chances that we become a global content creator as well. So there's lots of potential, and everywhere I go to, when I meet entrepreneurs as well, I say like you should really capitalize on social media and make best use of it. Either make best use of it, or just like keep it for your personal consumption and still consume products or services on what other people post on. So it's if you look at the from positive angle, there's lots of opportunity on social media.
Well, opportunities are definitely boundless with the advances in technology. I want to get a thought from Mr. Dal as well. But obviously, innovative technology and now artificial intelligence, metaverse, blockchain, all of that is somewhat helping the traditional sort of breaking that traditional norm of entrepreneurship here in Bhutan. I think it's a really great thing, especially now in the modern times. Mr. Dal, can we hear from you on that particular aspect of it?
Sure, thank you. I think as my colleagues Denka and Nima talked about, I think it's so interesting now that we can reach out to a billion people over a click of a button. Well, it's not that easy, but it is so easy. So the platforms have provided that, and I completely resonate with that. But having said that, I also want to give another perspective from a very foundational, foundational perspective of technological growth and how opportunities as societies that we have today. I mean, we can just think from the time we had the wheel invented, and the industrial revolution of the first, second, and now in the third industrial revolution. That's where, Sanjay, the AI that you talk about. But if you fundamentally look at the opportunities the people had in in these couple of centuries over the three last industrial revolution and how technology evolved, I personally feel that there are two very foundational technology that is evolving. That's the energy side, energy sector, which is so foundational, and the computing side. Whether we talk about AI today, whether we talk about metaverse, whether we talk about having a 8 GB RAM computer in front of us, where we can do video compute editing sitting on our laptops, was unimaginable if the computing didn't grow from abacus to where we are today. So just to bring that perspective, and very similar with energy, but that's the past, and here we are in the present, trying to leverage this technology to solve the problem and find an opportunity. And I think, Nimar, you really found that opportunity in the OTT, and then for you, we really saw that opportunity, and some of this tech gave us the platform to move forward. But I think the point I want to make is, in whether it's the metaverse that resonate with the next generation of our society, whether it's the drone industry, or whether it's the OTT platform where you can do beautiful creative things, fundamentally at the end is actually supported by computing and energy. So, and these are the two foundational platforms for the technological growth to happen. And when I mention this, it's not about technologists leading the future of entrepreneurship. It's about creative minds coming together, being cognizant of what drives the fundamental growth in technology, but what does the society or the consumers or the customer want, which brings value by solving the right problem. And if we have that mindset, I think we can really leverage the innovation ecosystem that we talked about in the beginning, through trying projects, having a foundational platform, a lab, but also the reality is we need financing for any problems to be solved using the opportunities we have with tech. So those are some of the thoughts I wanted to throw, but this is something that I personally dream about, think about, and that's what we are doing in DHI through one of our departments, beyond the other things that DHI we do. So very happy to connect at various different levels beyond the seminar, the conference here. Thanks, Sanjay, back to you.
Thank you. Financing, yes, which leads me to this challenges, basically. What are the challenges? Obviously, technology is great in terms of innovation, creativity, job creation, business creation, entrepreneurship, ideas, transcending this border. But I'm sure there are challenges. It's not all flowers and bees and sugar on that side of the field. I'm sure there are challenges. What are the challenges?
Yeah, maybe just I'll give the perspective. The way I look at, we can talk about one particular challenge, but the perspective of looking and challenge and finding an opportunity is, again, let's go back to first principles, right? So you break down the challenge. Let's take a challenge of climate change. Well, but if you want to solve climate change, you need to really break down the problem. And then finally, it may just be really down to segregating your waste at home and using a good AI algorithm to segregate your waste. I'm just brainstorming, right? So we can pinpoint 4 challenges, big ones, which matter to the world. Going to moon or going to the Mars is also a challenge. Having a good booster rocket is a challenge. Building that efficiency in the engine is a challenge. Making the engine more efficient and looking at the best material to make the engine is a challenge. So if you break down, we will find enough exciting work for all creative minds and all passionate minds to look at where we can focus our thoughts. And of course, if you look at Bhutanese economy, of course, I as much as we can look at certain sectors, if we have this mindset of looking at global challenges, breaking it down, then actually just our phone can solve a lot of the challenges that build up to solve the larger interesting challenge that can take humanity forward or our economy forward.
If I can.
So, yes, please, Nima. I wanted to get to you as well for an OTT platform. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So that time, let's say, Sir Ujjwal was sharing about technology, the interesting concept that's being currently DHI is working on, the initiative, about the lab, the R&D, and then the financing model, creating the ecosystem for innovation. So currently, I think the biggest challenge for startups, especially in Bhutan, is that we do have like very limited access to seed capital. We do not have, especially like in our sector, like in the media tech sector. Uh, we do not really have any kind of classification for startups in Bhutan. And I found this out when we started SAMU. So we, for startups, for CSI sector, CSI, everything that's started with a budget of less than 10 million nultram, 10 million nultram classifies under the CSI sector. And then SAMU was started with over 500,000, 50 million 50 million nultram. So we did not fall under the CSI sector, but then we were a startup in the truest sense. We found a solution to a problem that was facing our creative industry. We only have 4 to 5 screens in Bhutan. And because of that, the 20-plus-year-old film industry was not doing well. Not many people were finding meaningful employment. Not many new jobs in the creative sector was created. So when SAMU came in less than a year, we were able to produce more than 100 original content. One of this content even, was a content that was probably the first documentary film that Denka produced, in collaboration with SAMU. So we were able to really utilize the creative industry. And right from the beginning, we wanted to create a content production model that was industry intensive so that we can create a lot of jobs in the creative sector. And the best part about content creation in Bhutan is that we can create content here at a fraction of a cost that would cost for creating content anywhere in the world. I'll just share an example with you that we created a short film called Why is the Sky Dark at Night? This short film was produced at a budget of 200,000 nultram. With the post-production work and all, it must have gone at the max 300,000 nultram. That's like less than 3,000 US dollar. And this particular film was selected at the competition category at Busan Film Festival, which is like the Oscar of Asia. And then this film traveled to many prestigious film festivals around the world. So this just shows, the potential of Bhutanese content. And at the same time, it also shows the potential that the creative industry has in creating jobs. In the last 2 years alone, SAMU has been able to employ and engage more than 300 people in content production, directly. Indirectly, we've been able to create thousands of jobs in the creative economy. We work with musicians, we work with directors, we work with cinematographers, animators, screenwriters. We were also able to create new jobs, like, for example, screenwriters for drama series, which was never there before. We were able to create new jobs like subtitling, translation jobs, subtitling jobs, And what we know is that, if we are able to expand and implement our expansion plans, we will be able to create more than 2,000 jobs here in Bhutan. And we can create over 5,000 jobs in the Himalayas, in the creative sector. That's the kind of potential the creative sector has. And in terms of like what Sir Ujul was just sharing, in terms of like technology, I think one of the biggest challenges Bhutan has is that right now, like even for SAMU, we did not have any local expertise to help us develop the SAMU platform. We didn't have anyone with OTT experience in Bhutan or OTT app creation development experience in Bhutan. So we had to tie up with vendors, with suppliers and collaborators from outside Bhutan. So today we work, with a company in Singapore and another company in Lebanon, to manage our platform. But the best part of this is that we have access to the latest OTT technologies, and we can bring in world-class softwares, and we can work with the best that can be offered on the OTT platform. So I do feel that when you leverage technology, when you leverage R&D, and with the right kind of funding support, it will be possible for Bhutan to really create multiple jobs in the creative sector. And also, I think in other sectors as well, especially, DHI is pioneering in so many different spaces right now. and most of them are definitely, geared towards creating more meaningful employment for Bhutanese. At the same time, to earn more comfortable currency for the country. So I do feel that with the right amount of technology, the right investment in R&D, and the right investment in organizations, or if, for example, what Sir Ujjwal just shared is what they are trying to create now, a startup innovation hub in Bhutan. So if they get the right amount of financing, they already have a strong corporate governance system in place, which will help even startups like us. So we do feel that something like this is critical for Bhutan at this moment.
Thank you. Very insightful. However, I mean, we talked about this conducive environment for the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. Now, how conducive is the policy? Who wants to touch on
You know,
that?
shall I? Sorry,
Sure,
can I
please.
just? I don't want to. I don't want people to think I'm taking all the time. Please cut me short if I'm too long. Right. When it comes to policy, I think a lot has been changing. Like Rikesh pointed out, a lot has been changing, but then we still have a long way to go. So in our creative, I'll talk about the creative sector. So in terms of in the creative sector, uh, we are a platform that can go global, that is highly scalable. And in the next, our expansion plan is we have actually, in the last 2 years, we have created something in Bhutan that has been a huge success. And we have had a lot of learnings from our startup in Samu. And now we want to replicate this model in the pan Himalayan market, where the market size is 86 million, and out of which 4 million, 4 to 5 million of them live in developed nations. They are the Himalayan diaspora. So even if we are able to onboard 5% of the Himalayan diaspora, we are talking about, around 4.3 million subscribers, and that amount of convertible currency earnings for Bhutan. But the biggest challenge right now we see is that we have regulations in the country that do not allow us to show films other than films that are in Zonka or English. And that's where we see a big challenge for us to expand into the pan-Himalayan market. Because once we expand into the pan-Himalayan market, we'll have to show content from the entire Himalayan range. This would mean content from Nepal, content from the northeast of India, content from Ladakh, content from Sikkim, content from Darjeeling. So, and also, we can also have our films, the Zonka films, available in multiple languages for the Himalayan with ADR. And similarly, Himalayan films from different parts of the region can be available in Zonka and other ADRs as well. So this particular challenge is one of the biggest challenges that we see for us to expand into the Himalayan space.
And can I jump in as well?
Please, Dinker, let's hear your perspective on this.
Yeah. Well, talking of challenges from a regulation point of view, being a mediapreneur and being in creative industry, I think I don't know. I got fined because for using drone, and ever since I've had problem with this regulation. I mean, as a content creator, like abroad, everybody uses drone, and in Bhutan, I think people involved in creative industry can only understand this challenge of why we're not allowed to use drone and why it's favored to only certain group of people. I think regulations like this sort of creates barrier to really enhance our creative work. And it's not only drone footage, even as a content creator, cybersecurity is something which needs to be strengthened in country. For instance, we could have 100,000 people using Facebook. And if we just have one agent under the GovTech to look after cybersecurity, then I think there's lots of potential for the stakeholders to really strengthen cybersecurity for the digital safety of the citizens. People often ask me, "You're always happy. Was there a moment where you were very sad?" And I always tell them, there was one moment when I was literally crying being a blogger, and that was when my Facebook got hacked. My social media platform got hacked, and then none of the stakeholders from Bhutan could help because they did not have direct connection with Facebook, office of Facebook, no connections with Instagram or direct connection with the social media platform, right? So I literally had to hire a foreign agent from the Philippines to actually connect me to the parent Facebook office, and that's how I was able to retrieve my socials, right? So in here, I think if the government could really strengthen these platforms for the people and have direct connection with the main agent, I think that would really help the users, and that will only accelerate again our work.
So definitely, government needs to come up with policies that would be conducive for any content creators, rules and regulations that could be leveraged to make content and innovate and ultimately contribute to the ecosystem of the entrepreneurship. Mr. Dahl, can we hear from your perspective?
Sure, thank you. And I resonate with challenges of policies, regulations. Personally, I come with a philosophy: innovate first, regulate later. And I think even if you look in recent history, I mean, most of the industries that if you ask a young kid these days, what are the industries? Nobody will talk about the GE and Motorola. I mean, we talk about Google and Facebook, and these are the companies. And if you look at the regulatory environment globally, how did and time and again, actually, if you look at probably from innovation economy, if you look at it, it's still the US, I would say, right? I haven't looked at the latest data, but even if you look at all the innovation that happened in the early 19th century or before, everything happened in the US, not necessarily Americans, but it produced the conducive environment to get the right people and make a critical mass of people, of innovators, of thinkers, and hence we have an electric motor which runs the world largely. So then if you look at what were the policies, what were the regulations, whether you talk about the Manhattan Project and then the Test Ban Treaty later, or the Google and the Facebook that are being fined now because there wasn't a regulation, then you start thinking, do you need to build a regulation first and policy first? Are we too policy heavy in Bhutan? Is also something that we need to think about. And I think this is exactly what we are thinking about in Bhutan. That's why I'm actually happy from that perspective. As much as Rikesh mentioned that it's about 10 minutes we get a license, still it's not a full 100% reality. Not every sector gets that, right? So we still have a lot of work to do. But having said that, in the past 2-3 years, the environment in Bhutan in policy building, regulatory building, if at all it should be built, has been very, very conducive. And that's my personal comment. It's very conducive. And I can cite one example which is very, very interesting, is generally technology I feel that industry should push policy. Entrepreneurs at the end has to push policies, right? If it is the policy is set on the table and then you tell entrepreneurs, okay, now you are open to play in the field and innovate, and it doesn't work like it has to be the other way around. So even if you look at what DHI in a small way is trying to do is push the boundaries to do drone industry, all right, push the boundaries to do national digital identity and self-sovereign framework on a blockchain. No country has done that, and now we have a national act on that. How did that act come about? Actually, the government and the team of DHI and the experts from globally sat together, and the technical team which was building the technology was actually the core team to write the act, with all the support and guidance of the judges, of the legal side, and experts from outside and from Bhutan. But then it was a beautiful team that created the act. It wasn't created in silo, but the technology was created first, the app was created, the backend was created, it was tested, and as we are doing that, we also build a team to build the act around it, and which was also passed by the parliament. So that's a very interesting example of innovation happening at tech level, at policy level, innovation level. So the point is, we need to come, government, industry, entrepreneurs, society, academia, everybody has to come together. I know it's easy to say that, but as we build this innovation ecosystem, as we are ready for a mindset to change with what's happening, with national service next year, with DSOPs, with the discipline that every individual is being expected of, which is very basic human nature, which we sometimes don't discipline ourselves, and hence we can't create a SAMU, or we can't create what the Enka has created. It's the discipline at the end of the day. That's how I feel. Now, with all that happening, I think policymaker and the industry and the entrepreneurs should work together. And I honestly, I really see a very good vibe in the system right now. And we are the ones we should all push together to continue and give a momentum to this vibe, to be a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem in Bhutan. So those are some of my thoughts, Sanjay.
Thank you, Mr. Dal. Definitely, I think collaboration, that's one aspect of it where collaboration could come in. But if we do have time, I just want to touch upon this now. When it comes to innovation and creativity, and I think you also mentioned about digital identity. The copyright and intellectual property comes into handy, especially when it's non-tangible assets. So does anybody want to touch upon that?
Can I speak?
Go ahead, Nilzam.
When we talk about intellectual property, we do have an act, and we do have rules and regulations. But the biggest challenge has been, that there is really very poor awareness of the rules and regulations. And for us, I think the biggest challenge was that when we started SAMO, there was so much interest in watching our content, because Bhutanese, we even got messages from people like when it comes to drama series, so drama series, a lot of young people were watching Korean drama series. And then, for the first time, they could watch a romance drama series in the Bhutanese language without bothering about reading subtitles, and that brought so much joy to people. And so there was so much of interest in the content that we were producing. But one of the biggest challenge that people were facing was the internet cost was so high in Bhutan. It still is so high in Bhutan that because they want to watch this content, they were resorting to illegal means, like illegally recording the content, pirating the content, and that was really affecting us because we already have a very small market in Bhutan. So even if Netflix, we do know that in Asia there is a huge piracy of Netflix content. Not in the most developed nations, but in Asia there is a big piracy of Netflix content. But for Bhutan, for them, having 1 million people illegally download their content, it doesn't mean much to them. But in Bhutan, if 100 people are doing this, it has a big impact on us. So how do we deal with this? So we tried to deal with it in a very 360-degree manner. We tied up with the local IP agency. We started doing advocacy in schools. They didn't have the IP agencies in Bhutan. They did not have any budget for advocacy. They did not have budget for advocacy. So we had to actually work with them. We had to spend money to go to schools, to go to communities, to talk about copyright. At the same time, when we caught people, the pirates, or when we caught people illegally distributing content, we also had to take them to court so that we tell people, that there are repercussions, So this, and later we realized, that when we took people to court, what we realized was that we didn't have many people, the judges in the court did not really understand copyright violations, especially when it came to services like SAMU, and the compensation that we were given were very little. It didn't really compensate the damages that was done to us, and at the same time, it was very difficult to seek the help of law enforcement authority to get to identify or to catch those people. We could not get police. The help from police was zero. They could not help us at all. That's because for them, it's not there in the penal code of Bhutan. Copyright, on piracy is not mentioned in the penal code of Bhutan. So we really see that if Bhutan, the Bhutan has an aspiration to become a digital economy, and we only see that happening, with strong IP and copyright regulations in the country, and then a very strong campaign, that there is a strong campaign, where people are made aware, of the repercussions. At the same time, people are made to appreciate, creativity and to respect copyright and intellectual property. So those are one of the challenges. The second challenge we faced is we are producing a whole lot of IP. That's the main asset of SAMU. Today when I go to potential investors and they ask us, okay, what kind of assets do you all have? And I tell them, oh, we have over $10 million worth of creative content. For them, this valueless for them. They're looking for assets like property, building, equipment, like huge equipment and all. So we do not have a proper way of valuing intellectual property again in Bhutan. Policies that helps us to value creative intellectual property in Bhutan. So this is something that we really need for the digital economy to do well, and for us to really become a digital economy, for Bhutan to really become a digital economy.
Thank you very much, Nimazam. I see Tsering Denker rigorously nodding as Nimazam was making her piece. Denker, would you like to?
I was agreeing on whatever Onima was saying, especially like in terms of copyright. I'm not big firm like SAMU, and it's just the individual entities' perspective. Even with photographs, videos, I think there's so much of awareness and literacy that should be carried on in the society. Lots of literacy, digital literacy needs to be flooded amongst the community in regards to copyright.
And final perspective from Mr. Dahl, and I believe we have, after that, we have just enough time to have your last piece before we go into the Q&A session. So we'll hear from Mr. Dahl, and then once again from all three panelists as your final piece say.
Sure, thank you. I think patent IP copyrights are important aspect. You can build a whole economy around it. It doesn't really mean that we need to create our own, copyright, or we need to have a patent by itself. We can even look at investment models where we buy patent from outside. But then the question comes, how good are we in protecting those patents? So we could get the best of patents into Bhutan and actually build an economy around it. And then probably that's where the government and all of us should have the protection of those patents, as we were hearing concerns about what we have created in Bhutan. It's important that we build this, what do you call that, intellectual property capacity in a way that we can actually attract investors with patents to come into Bhutan and set up businesses from Bhutan with patent being registered in Bhutan for a certain number of years. Of course, discussion, arguments about how it affects certain industries and medicine and all that. I'm very, very pro on, very cognizant of those aspects on the patent side from certain critical industry, which I have a very different view of. But certain industry where people have put in their sweat and blood to actually innovate something, I think it's very important that we are able to protect, not just for our own self, but also this will actually, we will be able to attract investors into Bhutan to bring in their patent because they know that it's protected well in Bhutan. So this is an opportunity area where government, industry, entrepreneurs can work together to build a very robust patent policy and systems to attract investors also. So that's just a perspective to discuss.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dahl. We have just about enough time to have your last say, basically, before we move on to the Q&A session. So I guess we can, this time around, start with Tsering Denker.
Well, now that I've been into this industry for last 5 years, like I said before, I see lots of opportunity, and it's all driven by technology, digital platform, and I guess being positive, basically finding opportunity. And with this, I also see lots of sectors coming up and being open to collaborations. Initially, it was very difficult for private entity to collaborate with government or mainstream offices. But now, knowing the fact that digital contents or digital platforms are sort of it's knowing the fact that gig economy, digitization is only increasingly used by people from all around the world. It has only it only creates more opportunity for us to collaborate, to create more contents, and also to live the life full of passion, and to only like continue living passionately when the environment is so conducive to pursue the passion.
Thank you, Denker. Passion can take you a long way, and with this social media platform and technology, it's definitely a gateway to showcase your passion. Can we hear from Nimasam?
Like I shared with you all, that there is a great potential for the creative sector in Bhutan, and also we can leverage on the fact that Bhutan is one of the Himalayan countries where we enjoy a great political and stability. So we can take advantage of this, to become the premier creative hub for the Himalayas. And this is where we would like to go. We would like to create, to become the premier OTT platform for not just for Bhutan, but for the entire pan-Himalayan market. And but to do that, we will require access to funding. And in Bhutan currently, scaling up capital is next to impossible to get. There are no venture capital firms in Bhutan, though there are no angel networks in Bhutan. The banking, the financing systems, they do not provide any scaling up capital. So, and if you want to raise funds from the public sector through an IPO, we require at least 1 year of we need to be profitable for a minimum period of 1 year, and be in business, be operational for at least minimum 2 to 3 years. Whereas in many other parts of the world, you can become an IPO even without going profitable. Sure, you're purely on the strength of your business and then the potential of the business. So we do feel that with the right kind of investors that we find, and we are very excited actually about the initiative that Sir Ujjwal just shared with us. We do hope that we can be a part of that initiative, and because we already have a proof of concept, that's already been developed. We are right now in the growth stage of the company, and we are at a phase where we're trying to raise the first Series A round to take our startup to the whole next level. And after that, we want to move to the Series B round to really expand into the Pan-Himalayas. But we need to do this quickly because, right in the beginning, we talked about the huge amount of young people who is leaving Bhutan for chasing dreams outside the country. If we have to create opportunities for them now, we can't wait that long. We have to do it now. And the other thing is, we really feel that the government, all the governments so far have always been telling us that the private sector is important. But while working in the private sector, I've realized, that the private sector is not treated as a development partner or an economic development partner. It's only treated as an entity that's driven by self-profits. It's not embraced as a true partnership. So I feel that the private sector can only develop if the government embraces it as a real partner, to develop the country. We've already seen in the beginning, the keynote speech, that the private sector plays a very small role right now. And we need to change that. The private sector has to play a big role in the economy. Only then, we can perhaps become, the economy or the country, that His Majesty envisions us to be and aspires Bhutan to be.
Thank you very much, Nimazam. We have about 2 to 3 minutes, Mr. Dahal. I did get some questions from our audience as well. So your last piece, perhaps maybe you could integrate this into it, and I'm sure it's pretty much within that same realm of the theme as well. So as you're going to be giving your perspective in your last piece, please put it in relation to the producing a conducive economic environment to attract the catalyst and the innovation, and through that, how to determine the country's future growth for the economy. So that was the essence of the question. I do apologize to the one who asked the question if I didn't interpret that in a better sense. But the floor is yours.
Sure, thank you. Probably let's look at it at two levels. If I understood the context of the question, and this is also my general thoughts. One is, I think it's important to leverage on what we do best. consolidate the experience as an individual, as a company, as a country. I think it's very important to consolidate what have we been doing in the past, but with a very open mindset that we need to change the fundamentals of probably doing that, but that certain sectors that we do well, I think it's important for us to leverage on that. So for Bhutan's context, some of the things that we have been doing well are environment, our energy, I think hydropower to a large extent, tourism. So there are certain sectors we have been doing well. So I think it's important to see with an open mind, how can we be more effective and impactful in that? Maybe we haven't been as much, but that's one set. The other area to look at is look at the opportunity that has opened for us with certain changes in the society or globally. And that's where I think the entrepreneurial ecosystem really comes into play that we are trying to work on. That's the reason we started working on proof of concept project. It's like a DHI's, what do you call, a research lab, which we want to make it a national research lab where every individual can come and create something that is in their minds to, to the paper, to a reality of a working model to solve a particular problem in a garden or in an industry, or to create a completely new industry. It could be the next biotech industry that can come out. So we have started that process. We have also established the lab, as I mentioned, and now, as Nima was mentioning about, we really hope to work together globally to actually attract investors, to make a multi-channel fund to support this initiative. And Denker and Nima are already a part of this innovation ecosystem, and many more that we don't know in Bhutan. And of course, we want to invite innovators from the region and globally to be a part of this innovation ecosystem. And to make an impact in Bhutan, we really don't need that density. A small critical mass is good enough to have a huge impact in building this innovation ecosystem. So I'm not sure if I actually answered the question. I'm happy to connect offline if I didn't, to share thoughts. But those are some of my thoughts. And my only message is, please reach out. I think we'll have to work together. Building a fund like what Israel did in the 90s called Yozma Fund, which really took Israel to the next level, is something we're kind of not exactly, but at least that's the experience of Israel. And we're trying to see how should we set that fund. And it has to be an international fund. It has to be philanthropists, VCs, impact investors, and we need to ensure we are policy-wise being very congenial for bringing in investors, to bring in the innovators as much as we do our own innovation here. So it's a journey that we need to always walk together. I'm looking forward, actually.
Thank you very much. Yes, there are some more questions, but I advise the audience, if you want to personally connect to the individual panelists, I'm sure the organizer will share their contacts so you can ask them the question. On that note, we have come to the end of our panel discussion. It's been a very engaging conversation. So many more things to talk about, but we don't have time. So on that note, thank you very much to all the esteemed panelists. And next up, can I introduce Mr. Frank Hoffman for the concluding remarks. Thank you and goodbye.
Yeah, Kusasangpo again from New Delhi. So thank you for being with us today afternoon, and thank you for listening with us to these inspiring entrepreneurs and business leaders. I guess I'm not telling you a secret when I say that as a Liberal Foundation, we are committed to strengthening entrepreneurship basically all over the world and in South Asia, as well as committed to removing obstacles for entrepreneurs. And this is not an end in itself. It's not about earning more money, strengthening the economy. It is about a fundamental belief that a state that allows individuals to harness their creative potential is basically a state that trusts individuals to take charge of their own life in pursuit of happiness. And this pursuit is something that Bhutan strongly identifies with. Bhutan is a country in transition, I mean, as we've heard today, which is not without challenges. but a transition that will also in the years to come open up spaces for entrepreneurs. As the Friedrich-Naumann Foundation, we are happy and excited, might I say, to witness this transition. And we're happy to tell Bhutan's story in the world. Therefore, I have to say that we were really happy that we managed this year to take a delegation of members of parliament from Germany and Austria to Bhutan just last month. But I'm also happy that we managed to really run this series of online events for, well, about 2 years now. And we will, of course, keep running this series. All this work would not be possible without our partners and friends in Bhutan, in India, and in Germany. And I would like to mention a few and thank a few here. There is, first of all, our partner organization in Bhutan, the Bhutan Media Foundation, and there especially to name one person representative for the entire team, Nidrup, who runs the Bhutan Media Foundation. There is, of course, our friends from the German Bhutan Himalaya Society. We heard Uwe Dreger in the beginning, but we will also especially like to thank Mr. Reinhard Wolf. We have been closely working with Karma Choden, who also supported us in the preparation of this online event. I'd like to, of course, thank all the speakers and the moderator of today, and all the people working for this online event in the background. That is, of course, my colleagues at the Naumann Foundation. We worked together with our office in Germany in Gummersbach, Frank Weyers and Marian Vierkötter. But also my colleagues here in Delhi, especially Tashi Chetan, who you saw in the beginning, but also our communication officer, Manjari Mishra. And of course, the one person who has really been a driving force behind these events, behind our work in Bhutan, and who can't be here and who I'm actually filling in for, Dr. Carsten Klein, the head of the regional office of South Asia, who sends his regards from Berlin at the moment. And last but not least, I thank Universum, the technical support, who basically ensures that all this is running smoothly and looks as professional as it does. And today, especially Mr. Niels Udrich. You just saw briefly already our QR code to the feedback form in our constant endeavor to improve on our formats. Please do share your feedback. And yeah, we'll also send this around after the event. So thank you very much once again to the audience. Stay tuned, and we hope to see you soon at our upcoming events.